Welcome, everybody. So nice to be in Tokyo. I'm loving it. I have been here before, Tokyo. It's one of my favorite countries. I think that culturally, this is one of the most advanced, most refined, evolved cultures in the world. And I think it's apropos that we're here talking about the evolution of money. I think it's a very appropriate venue. I've done the welcome. Now let's talk about the purpose. So we are here to get a better understanding of a change that's happening that is of an epic proportion. There's really nothing that's been quite to this level of change. It's actually it's a paradigm shift. This is what we're really talking about. We are talking about looking at the world differently, and this illustration is showing we used to think that the world was flat. And obviously it's not. It's a difference of perception and really a difference of perspective. And what I want to give to everyone here, the insight is change your perspective and you change your reality. And this theme is going to come out today when we talk about cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency, I think the name is actually not correct. Crypto, cryptic, hidden, right? Mysterious, something under something. It's not the best connotations. And I think it's kept a lot of people from really understanding what this is. So I want today to be a time where we can uncover and show what's going on with cryptocurrency. We want to uncover what's hidden. And I think we want to change the perspective on this, because what we're really talking about, the root of cryptocurrency is encryption. Encryption. So this is protecting. We live in a world where there are threats out, and we need to protect ourselves. And so we're talking about protected, more solid, protected currency. So I think that's a very important place for us to start. I had Mr. Masayoshi Son. He is a gentleman who has been very prescient about, I think he's the wealthiest man in Japan. He's been very prescient about what he sees in the market. He has I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but he lost $70 billion, in the .com bust, okay? But we all know that the .com, that has come back, and he's as I said, the wealthiest gentleman in Japan. And he recently put together the largest venture fund ever, really. I mean, it was a $100 billion venture fund. And the idea is that he sees right now that there's even a bigger opportunity than some of the big opportunities that he made a lot of money on. He became a millionaire when he was only 19 years old. He created, I believe it was a pocket translator, and sold it to a large company for $1 million at 19 years old. He saw the computer revolution. We saw a big bang in PCs, he says. We saw a big bang in the internet, and yet he says, I believe the next big bang is going to be even bigger. So this is a guy that has a very good track record. And so there's something going on here, and we're here to look deeper into it and explore this. And again, it's a paradigm shift. It's really, now with paradigm shifts come with technological advancements, technological innovations that accompanies. It's usually, think about when we were in the flat Earth realm, as the perception changed, as our perspective on the world changed, we developed technology that allowed us to circumvent it and start to explore it more. So there's innovations that come, and obviously we've seen these in our lives. Electricity, the first automobile. The first automobile, they didn't know that there was even a demand for it. They didn't know it existed. They thought, everyone wanted a faster horse, but then we created something that was never seen yet, and it was an automobile. Now it's pervasive. There's so many examples of that leading up to now, but I want to underscore that there's a technology innovation that's happening here that's made this possible, but it's part of a bigger trend. It's part of a long-term paradigm shift that is on the magnitude of hundreds of years. So, we are talking about cryptocurrency. We will not be talking about, I feel, in the realm of money, we're going to talk about 300 years from now. There might be, at the big site, a seminar on biocurrency, where you inject it into your arm, and somehow it magically pays, I don't know. I'm saying there could be things that are happening years out, but until we get to that point, technology-based money is really what we'll be using. So this needs to be understood that it's part of a bigger trend. Now, what's been the old paradigm that we've been working with? Well, I think we've made tremendous success with centralization. That's been a big one. It's controlled by powerful forces, and throughout history, think to the Renaissance. That's really when the centralization started. That's, you think back to the Bank of England, it's 1688. Things like that, the nation states, all these are from this old paradigm. And the recipients of all this are passive. They just, they're receiving from the large entity. I mean, think about it even in terms of broadcasting. So even going back, in the beginning of broadcasting, it was a big, maybe 1 to 3 stations. They're putting their message out. Now we're shifting to an empowerment. Now we're shifting to this new paradigm. It's distributed. So think like YouTube. Now we all have the power in our hands. It's controlled by everyone. That's a big difference in how we're orienting our lives. And it's empowering active participants. So no longer is there one party in control. Now everybody has the ability to be active in what's happening. So think back to the changes that have occurred just in the last 25 years. This graph will show that back in 25 years ago, 1992, the internet doesn't really even show up on here. So we really, in just 25 short years, we not only have internet pervasive, we have the cell phones. Cell phones, no one here had a cell phone 25 years ago, or if you did, it was one of the big brick ones. But no one, now every day we have everything, we're connected on a device and living with that device, and everything that we're doing is through that device. There's so much that's going on through that device. And this has only occurred in the last 25 years. So decentralization, power to the people, this is a phenomenon that's fueling what's behind this whole cryptocurrency phenomenon. And it's had massive, the whole internet has had massive disruption on many, many industries. I'll just list them out there. Banking and broadcasting. Virtually, you can't think of many industries that haven't been affected. But when I bring up banking, yeah, the way you bank is changed. That has changed. But the way money works has not changed. And that's what's interesting. So money as an entity is like the big stack at a poker table. If anyone has played poker, you know that if you have a big stack, or if you're facing a big stack, the big stack gets to kind of make the calls. They get to make the rules, so to speak, at the table. And for many, many years, ever since the creation of, I think it really started with the Bank of England, this centralized monetary model, it has worked pretty much the same. And the last innovation for how money has changed dates back to the 60s when the introduction of the credit card occurred. The idea that you would be, sending some money somewhere, hard currency, and getting a plastic card in return, that was like a different way of money working. The SWIFT system happened in the 1970s. Since then, money doesn't travel any differently than since the 1970s. So that's an interesting fact because we've just gone through, the internet happened, everything changed, including even how you were banking, but the underlying dynamics of money remain the same. What's really gone on in the last 25 years is it's been an internet of information, and that's been powerful, it's been disruptive. But what's about to happen is an internet of value. And we've had some major things have happened, some shifts have occurred that have allowed the internet technology, that distribution technology, that decentralized technology, to now be used in value, and we're going to go deeper into that. Money really changed significantly in 1971 when it was before that every country was backing their money with gold. But in 1971 that changed, and it started with one country in the US and it spread because this was supposed to be a very short-term thing that ended up going, till today. And what they found was they no longer needed to back the money with gold, and no one was doing anything. So then the abuse set in, and that's the centralization without any oversight, without any transparency, can lead to abuse, and that's pretty much what's happened. Now, money is transformed over the years. We used to, the gold was always there, as we were saying. We then had this moment in 71, and now only what's backing money is the governments, and that's a significant thing because it is about networks. Where we're going is about networks. It's going from commodities to networks, and the government has a network of resources, and it has a group of citizens. So it makes sense that it's working up until this point. However, think about how money is traveling. It's kind of adapting itself right now. They're putting on a facade of the internet banking and things like that. But why can't you send money across the world the same way you can send email across the world? Like, that makes so much sense, but money hasn't caught up to it. Money hasn't moved off its position. Where the future lies is technology-based money. It is a fact. The network is where it's going. The network is where it's going. You have these Facebook, WeChat, these networks have grown out of nowhere and have tremendous value to them, and yet there's no, they don't have a lot of assets. They have connections. It's what's the size of the network? What's the speed of the network? What's its capacity? That's where we're going to be holding our value in the future. And this is the shift. It's not just about the commodities. It's about the network. So it was the financial crisis of 2008 that gave way to the moment that created cryptocurrency. And that occurred because the central model was abused by the banking infrastructure. We abused it, and it's led to tremendous debt, overextension of credit, and an untrusted system. It's because of that bad acting, the abuse of that system, that we're shifting away from a centralized model to now a decentralized model of governance. Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 is the person or persons, still is unknown, that encoded this idea, first brought it to light. 6 basic tenets to it. There's decentralization, so he's on theme. It cannot be controlled by one party. It's got to be distributed and autonomous. It's got to stand on its own without anyone's assistance. It's got to be speedy, low friction, real quick exchange. It needs to have a fixed money supply because we've had a lot of abuse with the money supply keeping growing. It has to be transparent and auditable so that we can keep our eyes on things and it can't be abused. And then it needs to have a global perspective. It needs to be able to function globally very fluidly. So what's made that possible? What's made it possible today for us to have cryptocurrency? First and foremost, encryption. So we talked about it. Hidden is not the best interpretation. It's protecting data. There are ways to protect data, and those have advanced. That has helped. There's something called the blockchain, which you'll hear about more today. The blockchain is really a ledger. It's a mutually distributed ledger that's keeping track of the digital units that are being distributed in a currency in a way that's tamper-proof, in a way that's immutable, and you can't have counterfeiting. And that was a very ingenious discovery that solved a very big problem. And that's really made it possible. And then there are smart contracts, which also are what facilitated. So for example, in the case of Bitcoin, people were putting servers into a system, and the system wasn't paying for it. They were incentivized by rewards that were encoded. These were really the first smart contracts. What the miners in Bitcoin do, they're putting up their hardware, their electricity, and they're providing the support of the entire system, and they're being rewarded on the currencies being distributed. So those are all innovations that led to this point. Now, what can you do with Bitcoin besides hold it and trade it? That was the early days. That was an issue. The first transaction occurred in 2010, and one of the people holding it just wanted to use it for something and said, "Hey, give me a couple pizzas, and I will give you 10,000 of my Bitcoin." And back then, Bitcoin was really not worth anything, 4 cents or less, a fourth of a, 4/10 of a cent. So 10,000 Bitcoins, it was a $40 pizza back in 2010. Today, that pizza is $40 million worth. It's a pretty shocking revelation that in just over 7 years that something like that could happen. Now, that's not because, this is where we've got to stay on theme about where's the value here. The value is in the network. The network Bitcoin, has grown in that 7 years. It has shown itself to be above many problems. There's issues that still remain, but it's shown itself to be a reliable system. And so that's something that needs to be considered when you see that kind of shocking number. Now, it doesn't go so smoothly, always. New innovations like this are hard to understand and hard. So there was nothing. If you look on this curve, there was nothing that happened up until about 2013. Then there was a spike up, and everyone thought they got overheated by the idea, excited by it, and then things kind of came back to life, down to earth. Now you can see that this year has marked a change, another upswing. Why are we getting excited now about Bitcoin again? It's because we recognize this system there's something to it. There's a lot of real investment that's going on and people getting involved with this. There's something to it. This idea that technology moves in a curve is a universal in all technological advances. And the point on this is just that we're at the very early stages. Worldwide and per capita, we are in the innovator stage of the whole cryptocurrency realm. So there's a lot of potential that has not been even tapped into. This is the early days. This is why this group here is getting grounded in a lot of the foundations of what's going on with this. And this point I want to leave you with is that the total worldwide assets right now stand at $200+ trillion. But the total value, even in a potentially, could be argued, inflated environment right now, is just over $100 billion dollars in this example. So it's only scratching the surface. Now you think about if it's becoming a real asset category, what is the potential for this asset category to grow? When, again, we talked about in the technology-based money is probably our future for hundreds of years. So we're in a realm right now where the genie is out of the bottle, but we still haven't figured out what system is really going to be the right fit for the future. And there's different use cases, and there's going to be different currencies, and you're going to hear a lot about different currencies in the next speakers. So I leave you with the idea that this is a moment that you want to become very grounded in the fundamentals of what's going on here, and you want to understand the perspective change of this paradigm shift. There is a major theme in that value is now going to be held in networks, not in commodities. And so we're going to explore that throughout the day. So thank you very much.